Yeah, good. Afternoon, everybody. Can you all hear me okay? You all listening? Can you hear me at the back? Cool. Thumbs up. All right, that's good. So, as you'll probably see from here, my name is Bill O'Shea. I lead the Udemy for Business organization here in EMEA. Our headquarters is based across the Irish Sea in Dublin, Ireland. We've got a significant team of about 100 people there. We also have a team in the UK, and we're building out teams across the continent of Europe. And as the slide kind of gives you a hint there, I'm going to talk you through today some 2020 workplace learning trends and predictions according to the data that we have in our platform. Before I get into it, show of hands, those in the audience or those who have colleagues who have taken a course on Udemy in the past. All right, that's not enough hands. It's a few hands, but I'm going to say it's maybe 20%. I might be being a little generous to myself there. So in a couple of slides, I'll give you a quick overview of Udemy. This is not a sales pitch. So if I come across as a salesperson, I apologize up front. This is just education. So we're trying to share with you from the billions of data points that we have, we're trying to share with you the trends that we see. And then the second half of the presentation, we want to share with you the predictions that we're making, 4 or 5 predictions for 2020. There's a lot of stuff in here. I'm going to go through it reasonably quickly. I'm from Ireland, so I speak really quickly, so I'm deliberately trying to speak slowly right now, so I get my messages across. We're going to go through it quickly. We're going to go through a lot of stuff. If you're interested in a booklet, our stand is right here. After the presentation, if you want to get a booklet of the findings that we have here, we've got lots of booklets there. First come, first served. If you're interested in getting more details, come to our stand, give us your email address, and we will email you a copy of a more comprehensive digital report after this presentation. Is that fair? All right. So I forgot my clicker. So this is a statement or a quote from Accenture from last year. And it's fair to say, as consumers today, we're all reasonably or very technically savvy. I've got 2 teenage kids, they're extremely technically savvy. Millennials are technically savvy. And even people like me with a few more miles on the clock, we're becoming very technically savvy. And it makes our life easier, right? Our life is easier in today's world with technology. But at the same time, organizations are not yet technically savvy. And with the evolution of artificial intelligence and robots, so that those robots are catching up with human beings. And one of the focuses for us L&D leaders in our organization, I'm assuming that most of you in the audience today are L&D leaders, is how do we enable our organizations to catch up with the evolution of technology? In the Deloitte report from last year, the Human Capital Trends report, when they surveyed a bunch of senior leaders, 2/3 of those leaders recognized the fact that artificial intelligence and robotics is a important or very important issue for human capital. But on the right-hand side here, you will see that only 26% of those leaders felt like their organizations were ready for this artificial intelligence evolution. So clearly the leaders in these organizations, and probably you will all agree, hopefully most of you will agree, our organizations, including my organization, we have a lot of work to do to get our organizations ready for that technology evolution that's happening before our eyes. I'm going to talk you through that a little bit. Before I get into it, for those of you who don't know much about Udemy, we are the world's largest global online learning platform. We have this huge portfolio of courses on our marketplace side of the house. We have 150,000 courses taught by 57,000 instructors or experts in their field. Those experts range from all different types of industries, and they come from all 4 corners of the world, many different cultures and geographies. And they help us teach 50 million learners. So that we've got this huge engine which gives us billions of data points, which puts us in that unique position of being able to spot trends immediately, up-to-date trends, and make those predictions for the future. Our Udemy for Business platform is a collection of carefully curated courses. So we look at the demand for professional courses on our marketplace. We look at those that are highly consumed and reviewed really highly. We carefully curate those courses to our Udemy for Business platform. And that has enabled us to build a course content of carefully curated professional courses of about 5,000 courses. We've got about 6,000 enterprise organizations globally, and we're growing really fast. Again, the reason why I'm sharing this with you is to give you the context. Who are we to say what the trends are? And who are we to make predictions? We make those predictions based on literally billions of data points that we have from the marketplace. So we listen to the demand of the market, and we make predictions and trends based on that. So I'm going to start by sharing 5 key trends that we've seen based on the consumption of our courses from 2016 to 2019 inclusive. So this is what the market is telling us. I'm not going to have time to go into these in a lot of detail, but I'm going to cover a couple in a little bit of detail. So it's interesting to pause on this. So if you didn't know it already, I'm sure most of you do, artificial intelligence is mainstream today. Number 2, with the evolution of artificial intelligence and robotics, 2020 will be all about realizing that full potential of the machine and the human. How do you bring both together to drive a really efficient and effective organization? And that's a key challenge for organizations and therefore for L&D leaders. Number 3, L&D will continue and to tackle reskilling of the workforce. So as robots take over some of the more menial tasks within our organizations, how do we as L&D leaders upskill our workforce to be able to take on those more complex roles within our organizations? Number 4, it's fair to say that in today's world, we're very data-driven. We more and more make decisions based on data and not only gut feel. And our organizations today are becoming a lot more data-driven. We will always use a little bit of our gut to make decisions, but more and more decisions today are based on data. And number 5, people right across the globe, across every country, every 4 corners of the world, are upskilling in highly coveted tech skills areas. And that's something that we've seen over the last 3 years. The consumption of tech skills courses on our platform has been phenomenal over the last 3 years. When we surveyed 200 of you, so 200 L&D leaders across the globe, more than half pointed out that technical skills, upskilling their technical organization is a key priority for 2020. So skills like you see here, like artificial intelligence, data science, cyber security, cloud, programming, etc. And about a quarter of those that we surveyed couldn't decide what is more important from a technical skills perspective. So all of these technical skills areas are equally important according to about a quarter of the L&D leaders. So the challenge there is, how do we put the resources in place to be able to upskill our technical teams in all of these vast areas? So hopefully some interesting data there for you. What you see up here on this slide is the top 10 tech skills that grew in popularity on the Udemy for Business platform from 2016 to 2019. You'll probably recognize a lot of this stuff. And clearly, I've talked about artificial intelligence and that shift towards it and data science going mainstream over the last 3 years. And if you don't recognize these areas, you will soon in most of your organizations. Some you'll recognize, some will be quite new to you. Likes of Microsoft Azure, Linux, Splunk, you probably recognize. You may not recognize skills like number 5 in neural networks. You may or may not. We see the likes of neural networks becoming more and more common in terms of consumption on our platform. For those of you who don't know, neural networks is one of the muscles, including machine learning, behind artificial intelligence. And we see that demand for those tech skills continuously increase on our platform today. So hopefully some good pointers for you there. Continuing that theme, as we see artificial intelligence, data science, cloud, web development becoming more popular. On the right-hand side in 2019, these were the most popular tech skills that we see from 2019 into 2020. Again, maybe no huge surprises there. So Python, Angular, Docker, Django, Amazon AWS, etc. So again, if you don't see these within your organization, you're probably missing a trick. Because this is a demand that we see out there in the marketplace right across the globe, from the US to Asia Pacific, including here in Europe. When we look at learning across the globe, and again, this is data from our Udemy platform, both on the market side and on the professional side. It's probably no surprise to see countries like the US and India on this slide, given the vast scale of these organizations from a population perspective. Given that we're in London here today, it's also interesting to see that the UK is number 4. So, and you see other European countries like Germany, Spain, France, Italy, Netherlands, etc. So it gives you a flavor for the demand that we're seeing across the top 20 countries within our Udemy platform. When we drill a little bit into the UK, it would be remiss of me not to drill into the UK a little bit. We're not all from the UK, but we're in the UK. You can see here the top 10 skills that grew in popularity from 2016 through and including 2019. So you'll see on the slide tech skills like Azure, Microsoft Azure, Office 365. You see data modeling, API, financial fundamentals, etc. So again, hopefully this gives you a flavor for the common courses that are being consumed and the increase of that consumption specifically within the UK region. I see a couple of taking photographs here, so I'll leave it up for a second. Alrighty. So in our learning and development world today, it feels like we overemphasize on the tech side. Maybe even I overemphasize on the tech side, starting off with all the tech stuff. We see more and more astute CEOs and L&D leaders focus more on the soft skills side of the house, particularly with the evolution of AI, where machines and robots are taking over some of the more human-designed roles from the past. And this requires us as leaders in our organizations to significantly upskill the humans in our organization so that as human beings we can take on those more complex tasks within our workplace environment. So those more astute leaders are making sure that they're investing time in the soft skills area, and something that we see a lot more of. In our Udemy platform, our professional platform, in or around 40% of those 4,000 courses focus specifically on soft skills. So a little over 60% focus on the technical skills side of the house, and a little under 40% on the soft skills side of the house. And we see more and more demand for soft skills, not just on the tech side. And these 10 areas are the fastest growing soft skills consumption that we've seen over 2018 and 2019 across the globe. So you'll probably not be surprised at some of this stuff: growth mindset, creativity, innovation, communication skills, all things that maybe in the past we underestimated a little bit, but areas from a soft perspective that are becoming more and more important in today's environment. Number 6, storytelling is one that kind of grabs me and is growing significantly. And it's that ability to get your point across through telling a story can be a lot more compelling than just showing a load of slides with lots of numbers. And those more charismatic and motivational speakers and leaders are gravitating a little more towards the likes of storytelling to get their points across. Culture awareness, very important, number 7. Even for smaller organizations that are becoming global. We're all global organizations today. That importance of being able to communicate with different cultures across the globe is really important, and not easy sometimes. critical thinking, leadership, and of course, emotional intelligence. Is that number 10 there? That will start to come up that list. We see more and more of our professional enterprise customers across the globe focusing their employees on that emotional intelligence piece, the ability to be able to communicate more effectively with people. When we surveyed our 200 L&D leaders, this is the feedback that we got in terms of what they see as their priorities as we head into 2020 from a soft skills perspective. So again, you will see things up there like innovation, change management, communication and storytelling. I talked a little bit about on the last slide. Emotional intelligence is definitely going up that list. Growth mindset and time management is probably always going to be in there. So it's interesting to see some of the usual stuff like time management, but some new stuff come into that list. Like, for example, maybe storytelling, emotional intelligence, not quite new, but certainly gathering pace in terms of popularity for priorities for L&D leaders within their organizations today. I wanted to reference a couple of our customers here. Intellective is one of our global customers. Intellective are a large management consultancy organization. And as they grew globally, they found they were having challenges from a horizontal communication perspective. So their employees struggled a little bit with how to communicate horizontally to other countries and other cultures. It wasn't necessarily a language barrier issue, it was a cultural issue. And so they put a specific program in place to reskill or upskill their employees on that EQ side of the house with a view to enhancing their ability to communicate better horizontally right across the organization. You can read here yourself the quote from James Baldwin, the CEO of Intellect. And ultimately, through using Udemy and focusing on emotional intelligence, they enabled their employees to upskill in the area of EQ and therefore end up building a highly collaborative, highly functional team right across the globe. And that's not something you do in one course, right? It's something that you're constantly doing and something that Intellect constantly review and upskill. So hopefully a good example of a live organization that focused on EQ with a view to helping their organization communicate more effectively, more horizontally, but also vertically. So this is an interesting concept, right? The whole concept of build versus buy. So the world is rapidly changing before our eyes. I've talked about the evolution of artificial intelligence, robots, etc. And as the world changes, we need to change, particularly as L&D leaders. We need to help our organizations change. Historically, a lot of organizations, as their roles changed and they needed to upskill or cross-skill their teams, they fired people, made them redundant, paid them a lot of money, and they hired lots of other people. Those more astute leaders today and more astute organizations are actually looking at talent within their own organization. The cost of firing and hiring is said to be about 6 times that of upskilling your current organization. And it makes sense, right? Particularly in an environment today where on the talent side of the house, it's so difficult to get good people. We all experience that. It's probably the most common challenge that we have within all of our businesses, the ability to find really good people. So those more astute organizations are looking at the skill set that they have and are upskilling and cross-skilling those people rather than firing and hiring new talent. And that's becoming a big phenomenon within our organizations today. It sometimes feels like a lot of work to reskill and retrain people, but it's an awful lot more work to hire people, and it costs an awful lot more money. So that 6x stat quoted by Josh Bershin is an interesting stat for you to take back to your organizations, I hope. This is another good example, Booking.com. Most of us will know that Booking.com is one of the largest travel e-commerce organizations globally. Over half of the roles in Booking.com are client-facing roles. A lot of those tasks carried out by the client-facing roles are reasonably low level, no disrespect to anybody. And most of those tasks are solving reasonably simple problems for customers online. And as you can imagine, a lot of those tasks being carried out by robots. That has required Booking.com to significantly upskill their client-facing organization with a view to taking on those more complex tasks within their client-facing roles. So through using Udemy, Booking.com designed a comprehensive L&D soft skills program for their client-facing organization and allowed them to upskill themselves in areas like empathy, emotional intelligence, with a view to being equipped to effectively manage and deal with more complex customer-facing challenges. And that allowed Booking.com to significantly offer a better customer experience all around, both for the simpler tasks and the more complex tasks that they wanted to carry out. So again, hopefully a good live example of a very recognized brand that focused on some of the soft skills side of the house to upskill their employees. So I've gone through some of those trends pretty quickly, conscious of time. I'm going to go through some of our predictions for 2020. So number one, skills mapping will chart the future of the workplace. So that ability to be able to map the skills of your organization becomes more important. Focused capability academies are becoming more popular and will replace ad hoc training. So rather than training people ad hoc for an hour here, a half day there, half day here, those more astute organizations are putting robust programs in place called academies. Number three, communities of practice. We see an awful lot more social learning within organizations and that promoting communities of practice in our L&D organizations. Number four, as the world transforms, our L&D functions will radically transform in this decade. And then we'll get left behind. And finally, I talked a little bit about internal talent earlier on. Organizations will start to build out their own internal talent marketplace with a view to upskilling their organization rather than letting lots of people go and hiring new talent. This is a case study from a company called Booz Allen Hamilton. They're predominantly in the US. They're a large customer of ours. And they're again a large management consultancy company specifically focused on helping companies develop their digital transformation strategy. And through focused academies, Booz Allen Hamilton re-skilled thousands of their employees in the area of data science. Again, they couldn't do that through ad hoc training. They could only do that through this focused capability academy. And they focused on things like online skills assessment. They focused on creating customized online learning paths through the Udemy platform. They had a blended learning approach where they had projects and tasks that needed to be carried out in the classroom. And they wrapped it up with a really robust mentorship program. And the end result was Booz Allen Hamilton effectively reskilling literally thousands of employees in the area of data science. So again, a good example of a live example of how focused capability academies are effective in organizations today. I mentioned communities of practice. In 2018, when we surveyed L&D leaders, 35% of those L&D leaders said that organizations had offered social learning. When we resurveyed those L&D leaders a year later, that number had changed to 43. When we surveyed organizations in 2018, of those organizations that didn't offer social learning, 23% said they were going to. A year later, that number jumped to 34%. So that appetite and promotion of communities of practice is becoming more important in our world today. Good example of that is NTT Data, a very large global system integrator company, headquartered out of Japan and Germany. And they used that concept of communities of practice within their organization, where they used Udemy for Business platform to upskill a lot of their tech organization in the areas of Spark, Python, Selenium, AWS, etc. They wrapped that up in, not only did they train their teams, but they appointed subject matter experts in their organizations. They set out tasks for their tech team and projects. And as their trained tech team completed those tasks and projects, they gained points. And after accumulation of a certain amount of points, they got accreditation. So you had these clusters of technical people within the NTT organization that motivated each other. So it really kind of developed that culture of learning within the organization through that group of communities of practice. So watch out, if you haven't seen this already, you're going to see a lot of that in this decade. When we survey those 200 L&D leaders, these are the functions that L&D leaders think they want to have in their organizations today and tomorrow. You will see roles up here like facilitators and instructors, LMS administrators, probably no surprise, that's not new. But you'll see some new stuff down the list. And I guarantee you, if I'm here next year and show this slide, some of these functions within L&D down at the bottom, like social community managers, for example, will climb up that list. And this is what we mean by we're seeing the L&D function radically transform as the necessity to upskill our organizations is more and more in this decade. So again, if you don't recognize some of this stuff, take a picture. It's on its way to you. So hopefully, I'm bang on time, which is unusual. Hopefully that gives you a good flavor through the billions of data points that we have of some of the trends that we're seeing from an L&D perspective and some of the predictions that we're making in 2020 and for this decade. This slide and the next slide, it just gives you examples of brands that we work with globally with a view to upskilling their organizations. As I said at the start, hopefully this was really useful. Thank you very much for attending. If you're interested in getting more information, please visit our team at the stand over here on this side. We can give you some more detail. We can take your email addresses and send you a digital copy of our more comprehensive report. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.